Hello, everybody. It's your boy Lil Spunks here today, and I'm giving you a Yu Yu Hakusho video. And normally I don't do anime videos, but I'm gonna start because I'm actually a big fan of anime, and I got a special guest with me. Please introduce yourself.
My name is Owen from LTTP Gaming. I'm ready to get into what makes Yu Yu Hakusho Yu Yu Hakusho.
First of all, I want to say that this is one of the greatest shows that I have ever watched, like period. And it was made by one of the greatest authors ever made, who like actually one of the only people that can make two bangers back to back with one Yu Yu Hakusho and two my favorite anime of all time, Hunter x Hunter. So yeah.
Yeah, no, was it Yoshihiro Togashi?
Yeah.
Known for Yu Yu Hakusho, Hunter x Hunter. Yu Yu Hakusho to me in a lot of ways shows a lot of similarities to Hunter x Hunter in certain thematic or styles and characters representation. But Yu Yu Hakusho was one of those ones where I actually I liked it, and then I kind of had because the time that I ended up watching it was it was a while ago. It was back when they had Toonami on Cartoon Network.
Great. So we're going to jump into it. So we're going to explain why the core cast of the Yu Yu Hakusho, I feel, is one of the best in shonen. Because you got the Z Squad, you got the Straw Hats, you got the Team 7, suckers trash, but you got everybody else. You got Gon, Killua, Kurapika, and Leorio, which is a great core group. But me personally, I have never seen a core crew like how it was in Yu Yu Hakusho. The dynamic between all of these characters, it's so different, but their overall motives are the same.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's one of those where there's a lot of internal conflict amongst the group. Everyone, they're brought together in a very, I guess I would say untraditional way. It's not your traditional in most shonen, right? It's they're forced to team up and be together, and then from there they kind of develop these relationships. And the reason why I say it's different because it is similar in that way, right? A lot of Dragon Ball characters, they start off fighting each other, then they become a part of the squad, right? It's we fight, now we're cool. And it is that similar approach, but the personalities and how the relationships grow is different, right? Because you think of Goku and Krillin went from enemies to almost best friends, and that same camaraderie exists, right? In Naruto, the key thing is friendship. And the thing with Yu Yu Hakusho is that the competitive rivalry and that sense of they get along, but it's not it's entirely for the greater good of the group. It's I'm with y'all because it makes sense to more than it does is I care about you, right? It's I may show signs that I care about you, but it doesn't translate in this super friendly, super we're all great friends type of way. It's not when you think of for the Straw Hats, they're it seems like a family, right? When you think of the Z Fighters, they definitely seem like a brotherhood. When you think of Naruto, it definitely has more of a community vibe with kind of this immature undertone for a while. Whereas Yu Yu Hakusho is kind of each one of these dudes has a little bit of grit to them. They each serve a purpose of they're not your traditional hero. They're not they're not the wager of why they're fighting or why they're doing what they're doing never seems it's I want to save the world or I want to save people. It's I kind of got to do this thing and you guys are here, so yeah, let's kind of team up and make the most of it. And that's kind of the dynamic I took away, like what I received from it.
So the core group of the Yu Yu Hakusho cast is, of course, Yusuke, Kuwabara, Kurama, and Hiei. And if you want to include Botan and Koenma and Genkai and those guys, you could. Their characters are just so, it just impacted me so much, especially like Yusuke, because I feel like Yusuke is one of the greatest shonen main characters ever. To where you got Goku, to where he likes to fight and he wants to fight and he wants to keep fighting to get stronger. To where in Yusuke, I feel like, yeah, he got like those same qualities, but then it's a certain point that it evolves into like a certain conflict where like he's wondering like, if it's not about my friends, what am I fighting for?
I know that weak blast couldn't have done this. No, there's something else draining all the passion out of you now. What could it be?
It just hit me. I don't know what I'm fighting for anymore.
What? You insolent child!
Yeah, I mean, Yusuke is a really interesting character because one, he's a delinquent. Like, he's a bully. He's he doesn't care about anything other than kind of like getting into trouble. And that's kind of how you're introduced to him, right? And when you learn more about him, right, you kind of see why, right? It's never, one thing I appreciate about anime, there's a lot of different motivations and influences and reasons why these characters are the way they are. And with Yusuke, the dude's getting in trouble. The dude is feared by his classmates. He's this guy that like, there's this one goody two shoes girl in the school who favors him and kind of looks out for him. But beyond that, like, he's shunned by society. And even how he ends up coming, like how the story starts off, it was uncharacteristic of, it was like not a part of who he is, not a part of what you expect for him to jump out and try and save somebody, right? It was like almost this instinctual thing that happened outside of who we've come to see in this, opening of the show. And it's like, oh, rough around the edges, got a good heart. But when you think of the other ones, like when you think of some of the like more popular shonen, right? It's like a heart of gold, almost this innocence that can't be touched, right? This sense of like forward thinking, persevere through all obstacles. But Yusuke isn't like that. Like Yusuke, I can't even recall, like it's always with a level of sass or with a level of attitude or with a level of like, I'm gonna mess you up. It's not even like I want to save the world or I want to do the right thing or I'm gonna do it to be the best. It's like, no, I'm gonna beat the crap out of you.
So next I want to talk about my man and one of my favorite characters in Yu Yu Hakusho, and that is of course Hiei. Like, he probably is one of my favorite characters in anime because he's just awesome, man. Like, you can't go bad with Hiei. Hiei is like everything he do, his swagger, his confidence. It's ridiculous, and he was born by like these ice ladies to where like all their race is like full of women. So, and when he was born, his mother like broke the clothes, I guess. So he had to be abandoned. He was just roaming across the world with no purpose at first, until he found like Kurama in them and we had a friendship. But then he meets Yusuke, and he feels like Yusuke is kind of like a rival. Sometimes he has like a certain like inferiority complex with Yusuke. But like, I love Hiei, man, especially when he starts going all out and like start pulling out the Dragon of the Darkness flame.
Yeah, I mean, I see that, and especially with Hiei, in his like, yeah, like him being, I hate to say it, but like the whole group is like a bunch of anti-heroes, right? It's not, no one to me comes like, my interpretation and my the way I see it and my perspective is they don't come across like your traditional, we're heroes for the sake of being heroes. It's almost like everyone has a motivation for something else, and it just so happens that in order for them to get to that motivation, they have to defeat someone else that is a greater threat, right? It's like, it's kind of like Yusuke is a domino effect, right? Yusuke does this good act outside of who he really, like, what we see him as. He's called on by this greater entity that is kind of like this governing spiritual body, right? These godly beings to say, we need you to now be a spirit detective. To then it unravels into, okay, we kind of need you to be our enforcer. We need you to do and go and make it happen wherever we see fit, right? And he's kind of like, all right, whatever. Like, I guess I'll do it, right? It's like, at first it starts off, he's trying to just get back to his body. And then EA comes into the mix with another demon, right? Being a wanted demon. And he never loses that kind of sense of outlaw, right? Like EA, when he's around them, oftentimes he, like the physical representation is, he's separate from them. Like a lot of scenes, he's standing off to the side, or he's saying something and antagonizing the others in the group, especially, you know, as you said, Yusuke.
Now I see. You're a decent fighter on your own, but when your friend's on the line, your strength increases greatly. You're a team player, a save-the-day superhero. I hate people like you.
And so, yeah, EA is a really dope character. A lot of people like EA. You know, he has definitely influenced other popular characters throughout shonen anime and manga. But for me, I'm split between my two. And my favorite, and the reason why I'm split is because I feel like he gets kind of shafted towards the end, is Kuwabara.
Like, is great.
Kuwabara is one of my favorite overall anime characters. And you know, it's again that rivalry and that dynamic, right? It's not just one rivalry, there's many rivalries. And Kuwabara definitely has a rivalry with Yusuke, and in the first, I would say 3/4 or first half of the series, it develops and it's entertaining. It's, you know, Kuwabara often is super hilarious and funny, but he shows a lot of heart. He shows a lot of determination. He shows a lot of like if anything, he comes across, and he's a delinquent too. Like he's in a delinquent that's rivalry with Yusuke based off of the delinquency, right? Based off being these little knuckleheads, right? These headaches for teachers and the community at large, right? And you know, first it's like Kuwabara is a non-threat, like he's not even a factor. But eventually he's, you know, grows and shows that like he can hang with the best of them. And for me, I always look at it as, you know, I like those traditional kind of like straight edge characters, and Kuwabara isn't that, but he comes across like that because of his like his energy, like the way he shows up and the way he presents himself is very like energetic. Like he tries to be very courageous. He wants to show off and show out, even if it means he's gonna fumble a couple times. He finds a way to recover. And yeah, Kuwabara, I feel like towards the end he kind of gets kind of played, but you know, in the beginning, in the first half, definitely stands out. And you know, yeah, I really love Kuwabara. Like even the way the American voice actor sounds, you know, everybody can say what they want, but that's how I got introduced to it, because I'm on Cartoon Network.
I love that voice actor.
I mean,
I love the voice of Kuwabara. It was amazing.
Yeah, it was. Like, it's just so good. Like I just have it stuck in my head. Like, come on, you're a machine. Like, just so rough and rugged and like, yeah. And he's, you know, he's hilarious. He's a hilarious character. And the second one I would have to say, I love Kurama. Like, because Kurama is this very restrained, almost the calm one of the group. Is to me the opposite of Kuwabara. Right? Kuwabara's high volume, a lot of energy. Kurama's very slow. Like he even has like a flower whip. Like, you know, he almost reminds me of like the Moonlight Knight from Sailor Moon to some degree. Yeah, and he carries himself.
And I also think he got the sickest transformation in the show.
He definitely has one of the sickest transformations, right? He goes from what he's embodied as to then his original form. And you could see the similarities in like other shows that kind of play with that idea of like this true form of yourself within you. And when it's revealed, it's a beast. Like it's in one of the first tournaments, right? And he's like comes out, shows out, shuts it down. So yeah, those are my two. But definitely Kuwabara in the lead.
Okay, so now I'm gonna explain why I feel like Togashi is the greatest author of all time to me. It is because of his villains. He has a like fantastic core group of villains. You got Marion, you got Crollo, you got Toguro, you got Shinobu Sensui, and you got the Three Kings, and Hisoka. So now we're gonna give our perspective on why we love these two villains. We feel like these two villains is in like our top 10 villains of all time. And I'm gonna let Sin introduce who he got, and then after that I'm gonna explain who I got as my favorite villain in Yu Yu Hakusho.
So for me, the villains that I really appreciate in Yu Yu Hakusho. So when I originally watched it, and it was like, I was like maybe in middle school, high school, I watched Yu Yu Hakusho religiously every week, another episode, and it ended on this tournament. And the tournament was, against these different teams. And you're introduced to these characters before this tournament happens, and it's the Toguro brothers, right? Now, the thing about me is one of the Toguro brothers, so the bigger one, to me was so physically striking. I remember his like collarbone, the way that it looked, how it just protrudes out of his body. And he has these shades on, his hair slicked back, like, and like his presence is just this very larger than, life threat to the group of, like how are they gonna go against the guy? And every time you see him and what he does, he's just destroying everything. And so for me, physically, just off of a visual side, striking, right? And then when you get down to just kind of the not so much the motivation as the villain's actions, like the actions that they exhibit and that what they do is like, it's pretty brutal. Like they're a force to be reckoned with. And so the Toguro brothers, especially the younger Toguro brother, is my favorite villain, right? Like super powerful, kind of just evil in the best sense, in terms of whenever he's up on the screen or whenever he's doing something, you feel this menacing vibe, and it's delivered so well. So yeah, younger Toguro is my favorite, because I like a powerful, menacing figure, and he definitely gave me those threatening vibes, and definitely put a lot to wager, especially when it came to the tournament. So yeah, younger Toguro.
Okay, so my favorite villain comes from the infamous chapter Black Arc, and his name is Shinobu Sensui. This guy right here, man, like I can't get enough of this guy, and I love Toguro. Like I think both of these villains are like great villains, but like I feel like Shinobu, like Togashi took like steps ahead with this guy. He was the first substitute spirit detective because the other spirit detective had like retired. So Shinobu Sensui had this like moral code to where like he was like naive to where he thought that like there was only a good side and there's only a bad side to the world. And it's the good side is like humans and like spirit detectives, etc. And the bad side is just demons. So Koenma felt like he had fit the role. So basically, this man used to go and slay demons of the name of like his justice, how what he feels is right. Until Kawema sends him to go slaughter this group of demons, and then he finds out that the demons actually are being slaved by some of the humans and some of the other people that they thought was on the good side. So he loses his mind and slaughters everybody in the facility. And he feels like his like moral goals and his moral code was all wrong. So basically he basically feels like, hey man, he needs to he feels like he needs the demons to forgive him. So he goes and tries to get a key to open the spirit to the demon world so they could take over the world to feel that he's right. But that's not all to Shinobu Sensui. He was so messed up by the situation that went on. He had split himself into 7 different personalities to cope with the fact of what went on in his life. And this man's abilities is ridiculous. Am I wrong? Like, you don't quote me on this, but wasn't he like considered to be like a class A villain? I mean, class A demon if he was one?
Yeah, I believe so.
I believe so. So he had 7 different personalities, like, and it was like the creativeness of his personalities was like ridiculous. I feel like he had like one personality that was like super like powerful, one that was like super cocky, he had one that was like it was a girl. It was like split before his time. And this is why I feel like Togashi with his like power system and his like creativeness is like off the chain, because Shinobu Sensui wants to gain sacred energy, and you have to be like a pro for like 40 years or something like that to get sacred energy. And basically the key to getting sacred energy is you have to do something that you feel is right. But Shinobu Sensui beat that because he had 7 different personalities. So he was training the sacred energy with 7 different personalities, so it cut down the years. It cut down a lot of years to where he could get the sacred energy earlier. And the way he got the sacred energy is that he really thought that him getting the demons to come to the world of the living was right, and he felt like he could save the world by doing that. So that's why I love Shinobu Sensui, and that's why he is my favorite villain in Yu Yu Hakusho, and one of my favorite villains, period.
Yeah, just to kind of touch on like what you said, right? Like, you know, it wasn't just a class; it was S class demon. Like, he was top tier, and the thing about it is like, he's not a demon; he's a human, right? And that's another element to what like the dynamic of the world and the characters is like. There's humans and there's demons, and usually the demons have such a greater power and aura, right? Yusuke, you know, for those, this is a full-on, you know, reveal, but he inhabits both of those worlds in more ways than one, right? And Sensui, he doesn't at all. Like, he's a human who has to reconcile, right? Like, he was originally a spirit detective, right? He was kind of like the proto, you know, Yusuke, right? And so when he realizes that what he's doing serves a purpose that is against what he initially thought he signed up for, yeah, he snaps, he loses it, and he gains this immense amount of power to the point that, yeah, he's able to separate, you know, his personalities into these other manifestations, these other beings. And yeah, his arc was incredible in a lot of ways for showing that. I mean, just to speak on the differences of motivation, right? Like, Togoro's motivation was based out of him losing all his students, right? And him going to the dark tournament because of that. It was a demon kind of pulling him into it, and so he succumbs to the darkness within him based off of his own hatred and his own fuel of rage of what he went through, right? Where Sensui, he's, in a way, it's easy to see his motivation as having still some ties to a good moral compass, right? And you're right, like, it speaks to the creator of both Yu Yu Hakusho and Hunter x Hunter by giving villains such good backstories, building these frameworks for these good motivations where you care about the villains, right? Like,
Yeah, and I forgot to mention that the most important thing about Sensui that I forgot to mention, I mean, it's in the arc's name. Like he had like a chapter black cassette tape that showed
yeah, video.
every bad deed that the world has ever done that like the spirit detective was trying to hide, and he was gonna show it across the whole world to prove that like that the humans or the spirit detectives is not what they seem they are. So that's why I feel like Sensui is like one of the most compelling and like interesting villains that I ever laid eyes upon. Like when this man came into the series, like with that like thing on his forehead, I'm like, this man is the truth.
Togashi's way of building his characters is giving a lot of different layers and a lot of nuance to like give them dimension, right? To give them depth, to give them different sides and perspectives that you wouldn't think of, and introducing it in a way that it's like he doesn't miss when he delivers. Like when he gives you something, it's, you know, like, yeah, like I stepped away from Yu Yu Hakusho, came back to it, rewatched everything, and didn't regret a moment because it's a good show. Like it's well paced. You know, you don't really have. I don't think there was any real like a lot. It wasn't a lot of filler, right? It was like it was all building up to the next thing. Everything was progressing. Everything moved. And so, as an anime, visually striking, representative of the time. You know, if you haven't seen him, look at Kuwabara's hairstyle. Like that speaks for itself. But even the music was good. Like the music was super good. So.
Okay, so since I'm speaking so highly of Shinobu Sensui, I'm gonna give you guys where I got him in my top 10 villains, anime villains of all time. One is of course Miriam, with the greatest show in anime, Hunter x Hunter. 2, Doflamingo. 3, Light. I'm a Death Note guy. 4, Johan. I got Johan Lieberg on there. 5, Yoshikage Kira. 6, Griffith. 7, Shinobu Sensui. 8 is Dio Brando. 9, Vegeta. And 10 is Madara Uchiha. So I hold Shinobu Sensui in a high regard because I got him in my top 10. And that's how much he impacted me from the show Yu Yu Hakusho. And he is one of the main reasons why I love Yu Yu Hakusho in the first place.
For me, I'm trying to remember. Let's see. In my top 10 that I had on my list of top 10, and it hasn't changed too much as of right now because I have kept it the same. But the Toguro brothers have placed number 8 on my list. And just to go quickly through, because Hunter x Hunter does pop up on my list as well, I have number 1, Knives from Trigun. 2, Hisoka, because I just can't stand him. 3, Lil Slugger from Paranoia Agent. 4, Frieza from Dragon Ball Z, because I thought that was such a great arc. Buggy the Clown from One Piece, because he's hilarious. Envy from Full Metal Alchemist. Nuri Harime from Kill la Kill. Cute, but super deadly. Talpa from Ronin Warriors. And Tetsu from Akira.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
So, like and subscribe, and, you know, drop in the description my man's information, and you're going to have it. We might come back with it next time. Thank you for the collab. You know,
Oh, yeah. Definitely. Thank you for the time. This was good.